All right, you need to grab your bucket that'll have a number that is the same as your numbered on your wheel. All your tools will be numbered to the bucket and to the wheel. You should have a wooden rib, a wooden cutter, either a rubber rib or a metal rib, a needle tool, 2 trimming tools, large, smaller, a wire cutter, and a sponge. The only thing that should be in your bucket is water and your sponge. So you should have a splash guard, and if you have these screws on your wheel, then you need a bat as well, which will fit right on. You'll get your clay, which should be around a large orange size, about 3 pounds, 2 to 3 pounds. I'm going to put it right in the middle and smack it down. I also do a little insurance policy by pressing down that extra clay along the sides to make sure it stays on. Your wheel should be dry, everything should be dry. Okay, so you want to make sure that the wheel is on, so the light is on, and usually it's just pressing, so that means it's on. When you go down as forward for right-handed, there'll be a middle neutral, and then there'll be a left-handed, which is considered reverse. So whatever your hand you are, you make sure that you're set there and it's off. Then have the wheel go on its fastest speed, press down on the pedal, take your foot off. Add water to your clay and get your left elbow into your pelvic bone, and I lock it in with my thigh. All my pressure is going to go with the bottom of my palm, so that there's really no movement there. I don't want to have the clay here because that can move around quite a bit. My other elbow will go at my right knee, and about 70%, 30% palm. Add water whenever it starts to stick. But see, I can almost center it with one hand. That's how important this hand position is and your elbow. So you're going to scoop up. There's 2 things you'll be doing, is you'll be scooping up and pressing down. Now this is called centering. So what I need to do is I need to take the bottom part here, and I'm just going to squeeze it in a little bit slowly upward. I need to clean my hands quite a bit. I don't want to have too much slip going on. And then across that top, I'm going to put my finger, I'm pushing in here and pushing down. It's going to be rounded. I want this to be always rounded. So as I scoop up, press down, I'm centering my clay. So a couple problems you can come across doing this is if you squeeze too hard, you'll have a twist in your clay. So you don't want to go press more than the spinning is going. So slow is your action. And coming down here, if you don't press this, it'll come out and mushroom, which will make air pockets all along the walls of your piece. So you really make sure that you're pressing in the clay and pressing down. If you don't make it a dome, when you pull up, you will have a well. Okay, so I have a little extra clay on the bottom here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it off to make it really clean. You want your hands on your splash guards, both hands, well, at least one hand, and then both hands on here to stabilize it. You're going to cut down in this motion, right along the wall, down to the wheel. I'm going to turn my wheel off. I'm going to grab my needle tool. I'm going to cut down to the wheel. Take that off because it has a little bump that came out and can throw me off. So fastest speed, I'm going to check to see if it's centered. Mostly you can see it not moving or wobbling around. but I just put my hand on top. My hand isn't really moving, it's centered. So my next thing I'm going to be doing is I keep my left elbow in my pelvic bone. I'm just going to sort of keep it there. I'm now going to make a little dimple so that my fingers can go through. I'm going to make the well. So I just go, I call it the eye of the storm. So right where that center is, I'm going to make a little dimple with my knuckle. And again, I'm bracing myself here to keep myself as stable as possible. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make the opening. Now please don't go at an angle or really mess up all your centering. So I have to go straight down. Okay. Add water. Put my two fingers together. I'm going to put my hand right against my hands and guide it all the way in. I'm not going to hit the wheel. I want to go about a 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch thickness. I'll stop the wheel and check my thickness. So I take my needle tool, I have it go all the way down to the wheel, put my index finger there, grab my needle tool, oop, I went a little too thin. So if that happens, I can fix it. I usually just push a little extra clay on the side of the walls, push down to sort of fill up that thickness. And I'll check it again. Okay, so now I'm going to make the opening wider. So again, I keep my hands here. It's all being stabilized. I'm going to anchor my left hand, my right hand on top of my left hand. I'm going to drag my fingers across the bottom. I don't want to lift up because I want a flat bottom. So make sure you're dragging your fingers using here. And another thing people do is they'll pull out away from their hand and they really want to pull to their hand. You might go, you have like a kind of a baseball size. And I can see I usually have an uneven bottom there or something like that. We can fix that, it's not hard. I'll slow my wheel, tap my wheel down to make it a little slower. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to compress that bottom. So I'll take my finger, take my middle finger, drag it to the middle, and drag it to the outside wall, and I will do that 3 times. The reason I want to do that is that when I'm pulling up the walls, I will be compressing the clay together. But the bottom never gets compressed like that, so when it dries, it will be not the same density, and so it will crack, give it a little X crack in the bottom. So I'm also going to fix this top. A lot of times too, that it gets really thin up at the top at this point. And to make sure that it's not like paper thin, I just take my hand, I'm just kind of going over it, and also with my sponge to make it nice and round. I've also compressed the bottom. I can take a little bit, make sure I've got a nice flat bottom. See what a sponge can do. I'm also going to tap it a little slower. Yeah, about there. So everything has been based over here on the left side, and now I'm going to switch to the right side. My right hand is going to be outside, my left hand is going to be on the inside. And I use a sponge. Both my middle fingers need to be exactly the opposite, one on the inside, one on the outside, and that's how I'm going to press them and squeeze the walls up higher. I'm going to use it through the sponge. What's really nice about the sponge too is that my index finger can help keep the walls from wanting to spread out. I can keep it going up by pushing just this up a little bit. So make sure I have them aligned, pinch them together a little bit, and pull up my wall. And I can do this a few times. I'm going to go a little slower. Yeah. Sometimes, usually, I'll also, as you're getting taller, you want your wheel to go slower because it can start to have that wobble going on. So here's my second pull. see it's wobbling a little bit, so sometimes I'll correct it by getting a little water on my hands, and I'll just hold it. Kind of bring it back to center. Slowly to put my hands on, slowly to put my hands off. Always remember that. Okay, I'm going to do another pull. About halfway to 3/4 up, I want to stop pressing so much, not so much pressure, because what happens if I keep on squeezing this, the top will get really paper thin, very, very thin up here and thick on the bottom, and the whole thing I need to be even. So this is when we're doing a cylinder, you want to have everything even, the floor, the walls, from top to bottom, same thickness. So these are some things you can do to troubleshoot. Sometimes if you have an uneven bottom, you can take that flat short end of your wooden modeling tool and drag it on the bottom here to make it super flat. And then I'll cut out some of that clay for you. Another thing you can do is I can tell that I have a little uneven on the top here. One of the other things you can do if you have an uneven top is you can cut it off. So I put my kind of almost like I'm going to pinch it from the inside of the walls, the outside of the walls with my left hand. I'm going to slowly drag my needle tool through the clay until I hit my finger and I can even it off. One more pull. Get it very even. Come up. Clean off the top. I can take this little extra clay down there with my wooden cutter like I did in the beginning. And this is also a shortcut if you'd like to try. Put the tip in right at the angle here and then cut it off. That's another way to do it. I'm going to do another pull. So inside, outside, they're going to meet again. Pinching all the way up, about halfway to 3/4 up, and then I let go of that pressure. I don't want it to be too thin. And clean up the top. So another thing I can do is to make this really, really straight up is take my wooden rib, take that high flat end, and scrape it. I just sort of run my finger along, so I'm giving it some support and a little bit of pressure from the inside. And then so I've cut a little extra clay off. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, I don't want any water ever sitting in the bottom of it. That's not a good thing. And then I'm just going to clean out my wall. There's another thing you can do using your sponge, or you can use your finger, and you can make that flat as well. And there's my cylinder. So all I need to do is cut it off the wheel and cut it in half to see how well I did. So I'm going to grab my wire cutter. I'm going to put it in both between my index finger and my middle finger, and then I'm going to roll it over. I'm going to slow down the wheel quite a bit, like that. And then my thumbs are going to press down. I don't want to ever lift up in the middle of it. I'm going to cut my piece in half. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut down like this. And so now it should come off the wheel. Oops. So I dry my hands, and to lift this off, I'm going to, instead of lifting it like this, I'll end up pinching it. I flip my thumbs away from me at the base and twist it off. There's my cylinder. I cut this in half. Cutting it in half. So what you're looking for is to have your floor and your walls all the same thickness. There shouldn't be too much thickness here or this and that are uneven. So when you are done, say, hey, not too bad. I put my initials. I'll put the date. What's the date today? Whatever, the 9th, let's say. and this is my first one. And so I will put that, oh, and what period, whatever period you put that also on there. And you'll put that aside because I'm going to want to check that later. You can take this other piece and you mush it and recycle the clay. You're going to do 3 of these, and then you will do a cup or a bowl fully trimmed. Alright, so now I'm going to clean my wheel after I've worked on here. I'm going to use my wooden rib, have the wheel go slowly, just use that flat end and scrape off that extra clay. And then all I need to do is take a sort of a clean sponge. Get that little nip there. Alright, so what I'm also going to do is take any of the extra clay that I have around my splash guard and all the clay that I've cut off, put that all together. I will take all my tools that I used. If I didn't use the tool, I don't need to clean it, right? Put those all in here. Make sure you have to be really careful with your needle tool. You don't want it to stab you when you're cleaning them. And you can sort of help clean it a little bit with your sponge that you have here. But you can also take that to your sink and clean all. The sponge, it makes it so much faster to clean than using your hands or trying to rub it. Like this will take forever. If I take that, it's gone. And that's how you clean it up. Undo the splash guards, take it to the sink. All extra clay. There will be probably some silt and some clay underneath your in your bucket. So you're going to take that silt, and you can make slip with that. You can, depending on what's going on, you can make slip, throw it out, or whatever, and then dump all your water and come back with a big sponge and clean everything.